as one.
This is very exciting for us. I mean, you're going to get an opportunity now to hear all of Gareth Moulton's songs from Fly Half the Play. And I'm going to get to hear them again, which is fantastic. The play itself is about a rugby player called Darren from an industrial town in South Wales. I come from Port Talbot, which is a steelworking town. And for over 20 years now, I've been thinking about writing a play that is about my hometown, but is also about rugby union, which is the passion in most of South Wales, particularly in my hometown as well. Jeff Bullen, who was one of my directors at RADA, where I trained, the Royal Academy, and I've been talking for about 20 years about the connection between theatre and sport in general, but more specifically in my case with rugby union. The sort of passion on the stands, the joy, the fun, the fact that there's a live connection that happens between the crowd or the audience in a theatre setting and the actors in theatre and the players on the pitch when it comes to rugby, the stories that produces. And 3 years ago, I wrote a play which I was encouraged to do by Jane Williams, the producer, and we got Arts Council funding to perform it initially as a research and development piece, and the opening night was in Aberavon Rugby Club, in the bar. As I remember, it was a pretty stressful night. Jeff, myself, Jane, Lynn Christine, who were in front of house, and Gareth. Me and Gareth sat by the ladies' toilets waiting to go in, and as the play was about to begin, I saw some of my people I haven't seen since school, members of teachers who taught me, my first ever drama teacher, walk into the bar, into an environment that they weren't necessarily that comfortable in, with rugby fans from Aberavon and also rugby fans from across Britain, from across the world, actually, in Andrew Cuthbert's sense. He was a guy who was originally born in South Africa and now teaches at RADA, where I direct sometimes. And he'd come across with his son, Gwilym. And so there was theatre world mixing with the rugby world to see a play that I'd written and Jeff had directed and Gareth had written the songs for. Now, initially, when Gareth and I started talking about him being part of the project, I asked him almost the impossible task. I wanted him to write songs that had a feel of 1970s social clubs mixed with a bit of Bruce Springsteen, that has a melancholic twist, doesn't necessarily add further the narrative, but adds to it in an abstracted way. And amazingly, because Gareth is fantastic, that's what he did. And he wrote these 5 songs, some of which I think he already had in the background, but he sort of updated them for the piece. What seems to happen with the songs themselves is that when they arrive in the play, they seem to happen and give, I feel, the piece itself an added theatricality. There's a moment of pause when the songs happen, but also that moment of pause isn't in stasis, it isn't still. It seems to have a reflective feel about it. And when we started rehearsing it, I was absolutely convinced that this was no longer a one-man show. This was, a two-hander, me and Gareth on stage together. There was a note that Jeff gave that I thought was interesting in rehearsal, which was he saw it as each scene was like a musical suite. So it had like a rhythm to it and its own sort of energy. And I like that. When you come and see the play, if you come and see the play itself, I hope you appreciate and enjoy the songs as much as I do when I'm actually performing the piece as well.
Red and black and a firefly. And on a holiday in Port Sunlight. And took a night ride on a golf cart. Drove down to Hollywood. Red and black and a firefly. Working night shifts in the steel house. I'm living hand to mouth at the fault line. Drove down to Hollywood. Drove down to Hollywood. Drove down to Hollywood. Drove down to Hollywood. We come and we go, very light and beautiful. We come and we go into the night. We come and we go, very light and beautiful. We come and we go into the night. Red and black and a firefly. Took a DUI for a taillight. Like a fifth wheel on a boxcar. Drove down to Hollywood. Drove down to Hollywood. Drove down to Hollywood. Drove down to Hollywood. We come and we go, very light and beautiful. We come and we go into the night. We come and we go, very light and beautiful. We come and we go into the night.
Fly Half is the first play I've ever written, and I think, if I'm honest, is the only play I'm ever going to write. They say, don't they, that with people who write novels, that they only have, everyone's got one story. Well, this is mine. It's about the men from my dad's local club, who I used to go and sit with from babe in arms, really. And as I grew up and as I, left home, every time I came home, I used to just love going back to the club and hearing the stories from all the different characters in the local club. And those stories have stayed with me. These men, Dad included, have an ability and had an ability to tell the same story about 5 different times, and the meaning could almost be different depending on the mood of the room or how people were feeling that particular day, but it's the same actual story. And for me, I just felt that was sort of a tick list of what great acting should be. You know what your environment is. You're able to say the lines that you've been given, and also you're aware of the crowd that you're telling the story to. A lot of the stories that I was told over the years actually feature in Fly Half itself. I'm not going to spoil it by telling you any of them, but they sort of they're like old friends that pop up every now and again. Fly Half, in essence, for me, is a love story to my hometown, the game of rugby, but also my love for theatre and Gareth and my collective love of performance. That's something that I've discovered whilst touring with Gareth, is that the two of us are very similar, which is so enjoyable, a very similar appreciation when it comes to the excitement of performance. And even though we have a massive laugh as we go around, because I've known Gareth nearly 20 years now, this is the first time we've created together, but there's also, there's a seriousness to it as well. We take our jobs quite seriously, and at the risk of sounding pompous, we enjoy that seriousness. We like to get it just right. And so far, touch wood, as we've gone around, people seem to have really enjoyed the play itself.
Cloud cover when the meteor showers, and I was in bed before the witching hour, trying to find my way home. And our brothers left for new fields in November. Christmas in heaven was the coolest winter, trying to find their way home. 10,000 miles couldn't keep them apart. Guess 10,000 twines across the heart. Just 10,000 twines across the heart. Cloud cover when the meteor shower, and I was in bed before the witching hour, trying to find my way home.
I left Wales when I was 18 years old. I went to the Royal Academy to train, as I said. And I was surprised how quickly and profoundly I missed home. Not necessarily the minutiae of going to school or that sort of stuff, but actually it was the people down the club. It was mum and dad. It was the sort of the care and the warmth that I was lucky enough to be surrounded by these wonderful older people. And again, I've been lucky enough every time I go home to experience that again. It's something that I think that Fly Half, hopefully the play, can share, is this sense of community. Now that might be in the club, that might be through the game of rugby, it might be the work context. It can be through the love of song, Gareth's brilliant songs. It can be through the act of storytelling. But everything is about a community that looks after each other and shares.
The boy that fell through the ice, just a mile or more from takeoff. The boy that fell through the ice, well, it's a story you just couldn't make up. Take my advice and quietly close that door, and kill them with kindness, they'll come back for more. Tongue-tied and twisted, with hindsight they'll listen. I'd rather ask for forgiveness than to seek your permission. The boy that fell through the ice, just a mile or more from takeoff. The boy that fell through the ice, well, it's a story you just couldn't make up. Take my advice. Believe me now, well, they say it's all true. What percentage is real? It's a question for you. And after a while, if lies fit you can buy all the treats you can carry as your life flashes by. The boy that fell through the ice, just a mile or more from takeoff. The boy that fell through the ice, well, it's a story you just couldn't make up. The boy that fell through the ice, just a mile or more from takeoff. The boy that fell through the ice, well, it's a story you just couldn't make up.
The play is also about the relationship between a father and a son. Now, I don't have any children, but there is something that always sort of tugs at my heartstrings, that relationship between a father and a son trying to work out how they are, how they live together. And the game of rugby, particularly for me and my dad, was a real bond in the sense that we could discuss what was going on, the different tactics on the pitch, and get a shared vocabulary that wasn't necessarily about our relationship, but of course said everything about the two of us together. There's a flair traditionally to the Welsh rugby game that I've always appreciated. Being brought up, I was born early 70s, but I don't really remember watching the great 70s team. I mean, obviously I've seen it thousands of times on now YouTube, but on old VHS and when they were repeated on the telly. And there was something really joyful about the way that those working men expressed themselves on the pitch. And it seemed to hark back to the lyricism of the great bards of Wales and the stories that were told. And these events are put up and held up in great esteem, quite rightly so as well. There is something spectacular about seeing the red shirt pass the ball and score in the corner. The first time I heard one of Gareth's songs for Fly Half, I was listening to it through my phone rather than through earphones. And it was one of those great moving forwards, because I'd only written a sort of the basic draft, well, just the story of the script, which went on and got changed. But I remember I was in Warminster at Jeff Bullen, the director's cottage, and I put it on my phone and I played it, and he had a listen. And we both kind of went, oh, okay, so this is going to be different. And I feel from hearing Gareth's music, the play sort of went off in a different direction, and it was the right time for it to move as well. It was the right time for it to sort of feel different, and I found it very exciting. That was and is still very exciting to me. There are other things that I remember about being in Wales that kind of I try to replicate in in my creative world now, which is a sense of everyone's point of view is important. You get heard. However, you do kind of there is a hierarchy. Who is the best storyteller? Who's the one who's got the round in the club? Who's the one who, I don't know, scored a big break at snooker? Who's the one who guessed what the score would be at the rugby match? These characters, again, bigger. They feel and still feel bigger than most. In the play, I say these are the last of a dying breed, and I hope not. But there's certainly a sense that they're not going quietly.
Everything is happening at once, but I'm not sure I believe it. But still it's happening that way, and I'm just burning my days. Won't you come on home? And I miss you. Won't you come on home today? Together we'll walk the tight line. Together we'll walk the tight line. Together we'll walk till amber seas and darkening skies call time on time. And if you choose to respond, we'll try not to be cruel, 'cause every word that you say, but you could never take them away. But the light is gone, and I miss you. You can find me staring at the sky. Together we'll walk the tight line. Together we'll walk the tight line. Together we'll walk till amber seas and darkening skies call time on time. Time. Together we'll walk the tight line. Together we'll walk the tight line. Together we'll walk till amber seas and darkening skies call time on time.
I wonder sometimes what Wales would have chosen if not rugby as its national sport. I mean, obviously football, soccer, as we say, would have taken over, I suppose, and maybe it is now. Every time Wales play, I still have that moment. It's not the losing that hurts, it's the hope. And I kind of, even now, building up to a rugby game as I am today, I don't really know if I care if we win or lose anymore. I think I just want us to run with the ball, play and express. And I hope in a way, when I'm, acting or when I'm directing shows, I hope in a way that that sort of spirit of, go for it, holds true. I'd love you to come and see Fly Half. There's something about the shared experience in a room that can't really be replicated. That's why we've been so lucky to have this opportunity just for me to talk, which is always nice for me, to go on about Fly Half, but also for you to hear Gareth's songs and get a flavour of the piece itself. This isn't a play that can work on, I don't think, on through YouTube. The songs do. Wow, I've heard Gareth play them with Snake Davis many times, and they sound fantastic. They stand alone. But the actual act of acting it, and I'm sure Gareth would agree, the actual performance itself only works when we're in a space together, when there's a shared experience that happens. And I've been lucky enough over the last 25 years to be in theatres and in rooms, not just in theatres, in rugby clubs, in community halls all over Britain, all over the world actually, where you have that moment of connection with the audience. So hopefully, one day soon, we will be in a room together, you, Gareth, and me, and we will share the story of Fly Half together.
Safe in your hands, and strong in my heart, rising above this torrent of mud. Just for a moment, I lost myself. All is one. One is all, time on time. This world will fall, and the world's of dust and shimmering lights will polish or crack firmament. Will polish or crack the firmament, will polish or crack the firmament for you, for
There's lots of stereotypes about Wales, but we all know them. I'm not going to go into them now. But the one that I enjoy the most is the sort of the Welsh waffler, the human who speaks too much, who gets themselves into verbal cul-de-sacs, as I've done throughout this entire filming. Can't get themselves out, but keeps on going, has an optimism about one day they will find the full stop. When it comes to Fly Half, and when it comes to the characters of Darren and his son John, I hope they stay in that cul-de-sac. I hope they keep running around and around. And I wish for them to constantly be running with the ball and trying to score that miraculous try.
all is one.